Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows come the best indie podcasts.
California has the largest population in the United States and the site of some of the most famous true crime cases in history. But there's more than meets the eye to the crime in California. Join Sean, Jessica, and Charles on the California True Crime Podcast as they cover crime both infamous and overlooked from around our state, while looking at the deeper history that goes beyond beaches and movie stars.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Heather.
Wow, I like that.
I was like waiting on you.
Yeah, that was cool.
Shaking it up a little bit.
I feel shook. I feel shook.
You feel shooketh?
Yeah.
Are you shaken to your core?
I'm frothy.
Like a dirty little rotten apple.
Oh my God, I'm fizzy now.
A little wormy apple.
I'm about to spurt out the top.
Oh my gosh. Let's give a big shout out to our newest patron, Katie. She is sponsoring today's episode.
Katie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And if you would like to join us, it's patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast. You can support the show for as little as $5 a month.
Yes, we hope she enjoys the ad-free experience on all episodes.
You can also go to our website, www.mountainmurderspodcast.com. You can access the show from the webpage, our merch store, and Patreon.
You can do all that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, so go check that out. We're still kind of building the website, but we do have it. There's some information there, so, go check that out. And like I said, access to the merch store. We have some cute merch, and I will be adding some new designs as we head into fall.
Yes, and thank you to everyone who has been patronized the merch store. Thank you so much.
We also have an announcement coming up. It's kind of a bit of a schedule change, something that we're going to be doing in the coming months. So wait for that. It's kind of exciting, something different for y'all. Again, shaking things up a bit.
Yeah.
Shake and bake, baby.
Yes, everybody will be getting a dirty Dylan.
So keep...
Shaken, not stirred.
We had a dirty Dylan, unfortunately.
Stick a big old olive in
Okay. Now that's a step too far.
Okay.
Just stop with the olives. All right?
I just started with the olives.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Dylan, I want to mention something. I have like a new obsession. And it's watching police body cam videos, and maybe I'm sadistic, but it's ultra satisfying when people get tased.
Yeah.
When the cops tase them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it gives me such a cheap thrill.
Well,
because these people are so fucking annoying. And they take a tiny incident, like a ticket that's going to cost them $50.
Right.
Running a stop sign, something like that. And they turn it into a bunch of felony charges.
Well, it's the definition of making a mountain out of a molehill. And I have to say, I enjoy watching you watch the videos because you're always there for the payoff. You're there for the tasing.
I'm usually yelling like, tase them, tase them.
Tase them already.
Well, these cops are way too patient. And I know that a lot of the body cam people were pushing for that because they really thought the police were doing all these like shady misdeeds or whatever. But all it ends up doing is capturing these adults having temper tantrums.
Right.
And they're just fucking dumb, dude. Like, you're going to get a speeding ticket, so you're going to start kicking and trying to bite a cop and then try to run him over with your vehicle? No, I mean, what are you doing? I don't know.
I think it really goes to show for every one instance of cops doing maybe the wrong thing, there's literally 1,000 instances of the citizens acting a damn fool towards the cops. So I really think it really proves the point of cops have thousands and tens of thousands of interactions daily with the citizens, that most of them are just doing their job, and that people act a damn fool
They do.
over the smallest thing.
They really do. And like I say, some of these cops have the patience of Job, because I would immediately, after about the 4th or 5th time I've told you, like, step out of the vehicle and you're not doing what I tell you to do, I would lose my cool. And these people, I would snatch them up. They'd be in cuffs. They'd be eating gravel. But these cops will go on argue with them for like 10 or 15 minutes before they use force.
So you're just opening up with the taser?
No, but I'm also of the mindset that, you know, if you're not going to listen to me and I've told you 4 or 5 times, that's 4 or 5 times too many.
That's right.
You know? Are you going to sit and argue with your kids and tell them something 4 or 5 times? Hell no.
No.
So why am I telling your dumb adult ass?
I'm going to tell them once, and then I'm going to strike them.
One of the videos, and I just can't get over it, was this granny. I mean, this lady was quite elderly. She gets a ticket. It's an $80 ticket. I'm not even sure what it was, but he's pulled her over. She's arguing about the ticket. And this woman is old enough to know better. She, like, rolls up her window. She locks the truck. Like, she's not doing anything this officer asks her to do. And then she drives off. So, of course, he chases her down the road. She pulls into some parking lot. She's still acting a fool. You know, he gets out of his patrol car. He's called for backup. And he has a taser in his hand. And he's telling her, like, get out of the vehicle. She's got her window down at this point. And she keeps rummaging around in the car.
My gosh.
I mean, I can see her and I'm thinking she's going to get a weapon or something. Because she's, like, unhinged about this $80 ticket. And, like, she's right and, you know, whatever. He ends up getting her out of the vehicle, like basically grabbing her up out of the vehicle, tasing her ass, throwing her on the ground, putting her in cuffs. Then she's laying on the ground like, oh God, why'd you do this to me? Like, she's pitiful. And it's like, you created this situation.
You've been earning this tasing for the last 30 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like I said, it's really satisfying to watch. But I don't know how anybody goes into law enforcement. I don't have the interpersonal skills to do that job.
No, and I got to say,
I don't have time for this.
Right quick, some of the other funny ones are when they pull over like the sheriff or somebody in the local county government, and then they're totally like,
don't you know who I am?
Have you no idea who I am?
My father is God.
And but then they run across an honest cop who's just like, "Hey, I'm sorry, you know."
Yeah, I've seen cops
DUI,
in uniform,
yeah,
doing their little breathalyzer and their little DUI test or whatever.
Yeah, and they're
hopping around on one foot.
They're really expecting them to
postal workers in their postal vehicle, drunk as hell.
Yeah, expecting them to let them off just because they know somebody.
Anyway, if you're looking for something that's deeply satisfying and maybe you're a little bit of a sicko, watch these videos.
Yeah,
it's really fun when they get tased. All right, Dylan, let's get into today's case. And I want to give folks a bit of a warning, I guess, before we get started.
We're going to give the warning before we should issue the warning?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and tell them. This is one of the most deeply disturbing cases I think we've covered.
Oh.
Here, just as far as the murder, the weapon used, the brutality of the murder. There's also a minor, a 14-year-old girl involved. So if you're not into listening to crimes involving children, you might want to skip this one because it's rough.
All right.
It's rough.
Damn.
I'm just going to go ahead and give y'all a warning.
Well, if Mountain Murders gives a trigger warning before we've actually told you all the sordid details and not afterwards, it's got to be bad.
Well, I've been deep in this case for over a week now, combing through newspaper archives, like any bit of information I can find on the case. And let me just tell you, there's not a whole lot, and we'll get into the whys and hows and wheres and all that. But it's a deeply disturbing case. There's not a lot of information out there, and it's very haunting.
Okay.
Because this case is kind of like taking up space in my brain, even after I've finished researching and writing it up.
Well, I would say I can't wait to get started, but I'm kind of scared now. But let's go anyway.
Okay, so when Mary Alice Livering married Herman Reber in 1954, she was already pregnant with twins fathered by another man. And I don't know the exact details of this. All I know is that Herman had been overseas in the military. This was in the 50s, so I'm assuming maybe something to do with Korea.
Oh, okay.
When
That
he
makes
returns,
sense.
he marries a woman who's pregnant with twins, pregnant by another man. So I don't know if they were together before he departed for this overseas trip, or he met her right when he got back and they decided to marry.
So either way, she's pregnant with another man's twins.
Yes.
And now they're married.
He took on the responsibility of raising the girls, Margaret and Catherine, also known as Peggy and Kathy. I'm wondering how you get the name Peggy from Margaret.
I don't know.
I mean, why wouldn't you just name your kid Peggy?
I was going to
I
say.
always find it very strange when your parents give you a name, but then you have a nickname that's totally unrelated to the name you're given.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you just name the kid that to begin with?
I guess maybe they're like trying to honor someone in their family, but secretly they really didn't like that person. So they're doing it out in public. Like everybody's like, oh, she's named after your aunt, Margaret, but we're going to call her Peggy.
Mary Alice and Herman also had a son, Herman Jr., who was born a few years later. For 14 years, Mary Alice, now this is her version of the story, because we have Herman and Mary Alice, and tales of their marriage are a bit conflicting, which years later, I'm sure when people recount the details of a failed marriage, they try to maybe disassociate or kind of remove themselves from the bad parts. Everybody wants to paint themselves as they were the good spouse.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
I think that's common.
So according to Mary Alice, for 14 years, she played the role of wife and mother, caring for the children, preparing meals, and creating a home for the family. Herman divorced Mary in April of 1967, and 8 months later, Herman remarried another woman who had a young daughter. They would go on to have children together. So according to Mary, her husband just filed for divorce and wanted rid of her one day,
And then 8 months later, he was with someone else?
alluding that he maybe was having an affair. Herman's version of the story is Mary wouldn't stop running around on him. And
Oh.
he finally got tired of it and kicked her to the curb.
Well, that's quite different versions, right?
Exactly. And you know, Dylan, I was thinking about this because one of the resources I did have for today's case is a book called Justice Denied by an author, Michelle Gooden. And Michelle seems to be of the belief that Herman was having an affair and then quickly married this woman. But I would beg to differ or bring up another part of this is that back in the day, during this time period, I think people were very quick to get married. And we've seen before where if a man divorces, he might remarry in a couple of months. And I don't know if it's just the time period or just being accustomed to a married life that you need someone to be at home doing the home stuff for you. Maybe you don't really want to take care of yourself.
Well, and it also could be a societal thing of you don't really live with someone. That's shacking up.
Right.
So if you're going to be together, you're going to get married.
Well, I think of like the Helen Hanks case that we covered not too far off. What was that, a month ago, something like that. And her husband, she went missing. And her husband quickly met someone, moved them, and married them within a year of her disappearance.
Yeah.
And, that was kind of like a point of contention among the family members. But again, I think maybe things moved a little faster back then.
Well, it's true. And some people just need to be with someone.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
A lot of people, I would argue more people feel a yearning to be with someone than someone who's totally comfortable being just with them by themselves.
Well, and if you've been married for 14 years, that's a long time to go from being married, having a home, having a wife at home to take care of everything, and then suddenly you're thrust into this bachelor lifestyle. I can see wanting to be married and have companionship.
Yeah, you need someone to tell them what to do.
Well, there's that, right? According to Mary, she struggled to find employment, affordable housing, and to put food on the table because of the stigma of being a divorced woman in 1968. And I would say that is probably true to an extent, but I don't think you would just be destitute.
Right.
I mean, I look back and think, my grandmother divorced around this time and had 4 kids, and she somehow managed to work and take care of the kids in a very rural Appalachian community.
With limited opportunities.
Yeah. And you're
limited everything.
Yeah. So I don't know if I believe that you just could absolutely not get a fair shake or a job because you were divorced. What do you think?
Well, it's her experience. Obviously, we don't know exactly what happened, but I think maybe, you may have had an offhanded comment here or there, or it may have blocked an opportunity or two because people didn't, have a certain mindset back then. But I don't think it's going to make you end up on the streets, right? I mean,
well, we're going to discuss more of Mary's lifestyle as the case progresses. So you'll kind of be able to form your own opinion once we get started, like really deep into the story. So in April of 1967, which was around the time that Herman and Mary divorced, 13-year-old Peggy was involved in a legal situation when a man was charged with, quote, ravishing the child. He was also charged with corrupting the morals of a minor.
God.
This ended up being reduced down to some silly charge, right? But the man appeared in court in February of 1968. So it took a while to get this guy into court. By 1968, conditions had not really improved for the Reber women. Mary Alice and her daughter Peggy lived at 770 Maple Street in a shabby 20-unit apartment complex that was known for criminal behavior, prostitution, like petty criminals hanging out there. It was a seedy location.
That sounds bad. And it does not sound like a great place to raise your daughter.
The building was owned by a well-known local attorney named Walter Grafe, who would later be called, quote, a pervert. Peggy's twin, Kathy, was pregnant and married a man named Dick Boyer, who was an adult. So 14-year-old Kathy, 1968, she's pregnant and married to an adult man.
Well, it's just like the other issue where they reduce the charges. Why? How do you reduce charges like that? You know what I mean? I mean, come on.
We see it all the time.
Yeah, to this day we see it, and it is ridiculous.
It was through her new brother-in-law, Dick Boyer, that Peggy met his younger brother, Ray Boyer, who was 19. Now get this, Dylan. Ray was married and had a child with another on the way. But when he met Peggy, Ray fell in love with her instantly.
Okay.
He and his wife were on the outs.
Right.
He meets Peggy, and he's head over heels for her. He said, quote, I would have fought to the death for that girl. Peggy was beautiful, shy, and completely vulnerable. Ray disapproved of the household Mary was running and vowed to protect Peggy. In the 2 months they were together, Ray walked his new girlfriend to school and picked her up in the afternoon. But he didn't want her to miss out on anything, and even suggested that she go to a school dance with another boy. Like, he knew he would not be allowed to go to this school dance as a 19-year-old who's graduated.
Yeah, at the middle school?
But he wanted her to have the experience and was like, you should get this boy from your homeroom to take you to the dance.
Yeah, and that's kind of sweet and all, but I have a real big problem. Look, when you have parents who willingly, one or two parents, I've seen this before. Who are okay with their minor, not even close to being an adult daughter. We're talking 13, 14, 15 years old, being with someone who's 20 plus, mid-20s even. A grown man. And you allow that, you know about it, and you allow it. That should be fucking criminal. Because you are not protecting your child, you're not being a proper parent, and you are doing it that can in a way that
You're
can...
setting your child up for disaster.
In so many ways.
Nothing good is going to come from your minor teenage child, and I'm going to go ahead and just say teenage daughter, dating a grown man.
No.
Nothing good is going to come from that.
And that doesn't, if it was your teenage son and as a grown woman, that's issues as well. But we know that this is typically leans, the teenage girl dating an older man. But
unless you're Bridget Macron and you're 40 and you go out with a 14-year-old.
But
Emmanuel.
he blew her away. Right? His talent was so much.
She looked like Claudia Schiffer.
He knocked her wig off, bro.
With that bad wig, yeah.
But this should be criminal because nothing good. Because something's wrong with an adult who goes that far below their age. There really is.
I agree.
I'm telling you, even 19 and 14 that don't work for me. That don't. Oh well, she was mature and he was immature. No, because I was 19. I know what I thought. I know what I saw other people do, and I, disagreed with things sometimes that other people did. And it's just, that's a child still to me. And that's the way I thought about a 13 or 14-year-old, right? I was too cool for school. I'm 19, 20.
Oh, yeah. When I was 19, 20, I'm in college. I'm not going to be trying to talk to some junior high kid.
You're going to mac on a kid in the 8th grade?
Hell no. I'm not even going to try to mac on somebody in high school. Like, no.
It's just weird to me.
It's very weird. While Ray and his wife were separated, he slept on the Reber's sofa. So Mary is allowing this adult man who's dating her daughter to sleep on the sofa in their apartment. Again, I'm sure nothing sketchy to see here, right?
No.
Ain't nobody fucking around or nothing, right?
No, everybody has the best of intentions.
14-year-old Kathy and her husband Dick lived in the apartment next door until just before Memorial Day of 1968. Dick moved his new family into his parents' basement. Two weeks before our story takes place, Kathy birthed a daughter. So she's got a 2-week-old baby when our story is kind of popping off.
Physical proof of the statutory rape that she's endured.
Yes, but
nice.
Oh no, but she's married, so.
Oh, but it's a
okay.
baby. They're trying to make a family.
Child brides are okay as long as you're married, I guess.
How did she get married? What's the age of consent? Jesus.
It's dysfunctional.
Right.
It's very dysfunctional. The recently divorced 33-year-old Mary Alice led an unconventional lifestyle. People described Mary as more of a friend than a mother to Peggy and Kathy, and they lived like roommates. Mary was involved with many men. Many men, Dylan.
Oh, she's like 50 cents.
Some of these men, about a dozen, had keys to the apartment.
That doesn't even sound real. Like, why would you want that many people, let alone that many men, to have access to your home that you share with your twin teenage daughters?
That's the burning question.
But I guess it's okay because they both have boyfriends and husbands staying there with them. So,
well, no. Well, it's just Mary and
yeah,
Peggy at this point.
Yeah, Dick Boyer made the very upward mobility move of moving to his mom's basement. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no definitive proof that Mary was a sex worker, but it has been a source of rumor for more than 50 years that she was working as a prostitute and that this apartment was essentially a brothel.
Well, hey, a rumor that persists for half a century. I mean, I'm not saying anything, but is that a rumor?
Well, as Dylan would say, irregardless. Gosh. Regardless.
Yeah, irregardless.
Whether she was being paid for it or not, Mary Alice was throwing that thing around. I'm not trying to slut shame the woman.
No.
I mean, you can have sex with as many people as you want. But I am going to make a judgment that you probably should not be doing that in an apartment that you share with your 14-year-old daughter, and you should probably not give these men keys to enter the apartment at any time.
No, see, that's the weird part about it, honestly. Look, if you want to sell or have a transactional situation with your muffin, right? You're selling a little piece of muffin here, a little piece of muffin there.
You want your muffin buttered just because maybe you have a hyper butter addiction.
Maybe you got a little quivering muffin, right? You got a little shaky muffin.
Maybe your muffin's soggy.
Oh, too. You might
got all that butter on it. It's
get
a
that
soggy
looked
muffin.
at. Damn, I had to air that muffin out. What? I had to set it out in the sun. Shit.
Oh, look, I'm
rug.
not trying to be puritanical here, but I would say by 1968 standards, this was a very unconventional lifestyle. Even by 2025 standards, I'd say this is a bit of an unconventional lifestyle.
No, this is...
have a revolving door of men, and you're just very sexually active with, numerous men at a time.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot.
Damn, you see her down there at the key machine at Lowe's, just getting keys for dudes.
All right, Dylan. So in May of 1968, Mary was at that time dating a married man named Arthur Root Jr., a petty criminal with an extensive record. We may not know for sure if Mary was a sex worker, but we do know that she exercised poor judgment because the cast of characters who were in and out of the apartment were criminals.
Right.
So she is allowing these criminals to be in her home and to be around her children.
Well, say her being a sex worker, whether she was or wasn't, it really is moot, right? It's this allowing this type of atmosphere to exist where her children or her child lives. That's the problem. That's the main issue.
Yeah,
the rest of it really doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I mean that's my issue. Is just is leading this kind of lifestyle or exercising this kind of behavior in front of her child.
Right.
I have a problem with that. Herman Reber invited Peggy and Kathy to stay with him. However, Peggy preferred living with her mother where there were fewer rules. Under Herman's roof, he had expectations. Peggy would have to follow rules and be responsible, be accountable for her actions. And most teenagers, let's be honest, are not going to choose rules over freedom. At 14, if you had had an opportunity to do whatever the hell you wanted, would you have chosen that or to live under a roof where you had structure and rules and accountability and chores and you were expected to go to school and you couldn't just run amok?
I would take the second home.
You would?
Yeah, because I wasn't doing any. I was living inside the rules. I wasn't doing anything.
Well, I was living inside the rules too, but if somebody had been like, hey, you can go live here and you don't have to listen to your mom bitch and nag all the time, I'd have been like, hell yeah. Because I lived by the rules and still got in trouble. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, we just had, I was, my mom was asleep on the couch.
Well.
So.
Peggy never had a boyfriend before meeting Ray Boyer. Mary thought he was, quote, a nice guy. So this 19-year-old was just the kind of guy she thought was okay for her 14-year-old daughter to settle down with. Because he's a nice man. Now, others in town have said that the Boyer brothers had quite a reputation for being a little wild, a little crazy, and a little problematic. So they got a reputation for being rough and tumble. Maybe fighting.
The Boyer boys.
Yeah.
All right.
But, he's a nice guy, so it's cool. Please come sleep on my couch.
Well, let's be honest. She's not. It doesn't sound like she's the best judge of a character.
No.
It's like, have you met my 14-year-old daughter? I think you guys would hit it off.
Peggy had been a fair but not good student in school. She had wanted to become a secretary, yet when she met Ray Boyer, her plans went out the window. Young and in love, Peggy and Ray talked about getting married as soon as he obtained a divorce from his wife, the woman that he's married to that is pregnant with his child.
See, this right here is a prime example of why the age difference matters, right? And I'm not saying a woman closer to Ray's age would not make a poor decision, But a 14-year-old doesn't even think like that. They don't think about.
He's married with a child. He's got a baby on the way.
It's a lot of issues, a lot of baggage.
A lot of baggage.
He's not wanting to take care of his child. Why does he not want to be with his wife? I mean, there's a lot to think about here.
By Memorial Day weekend, Mary Alice and Peggy faced eviction. The landlord disapproved of the many visitors to the apartment. Mary, who was unemployed, also had fallen behind on rent payments. So got these two, kind of actions working against her. You aren't paying rent, and you've got a steady stream of visitors, known criminals, flowing into your apartment.
Amongst other things, possibly.
On Friday, May 23rd of 1968, Peggy woke up around 7:15 a.m. and got dressed. Mary wrote a note to the school about Peggy's absence the previous day when she wasn't feeling well. I should also mention that since the beginning of the semester, I guess the beginning of 1968, so from January to May, she had something like 30 absences.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
She was like chronically, like truant.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Mary saw her daughter again between 4:30 and 5:30 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Mary was getting ready to go out. Because when you're facing eviction and you're jobless, going out and socializing is important, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, that's got to be the number one priority in a situation like that.
The two were fooling around, with Peggy tickling her mother. This kind of horseplay was not unusual since the two kind of enjoyed joking around with each other, so they're just kind of cutting up, having a laugh. It was during this time that Peggy told her mother she had planned to go out to eat with Ray Boyer that evening. Mary didn't realize this would be the last time she would see her 14-year-old daughter Peggy alive. According to Mary, she didn't worry about Peggy because she knew Ray Boyer would, quote, take care of her.
She never worries about Peggy. Ever. In any of her choices.
How dare you say that, Dylan? Let me just say, folks who look at this case through a modern lens very much want to defend Mary and her behavior and her actions and choices.
I don't see how.
They paint her as a victim, and I have a problem with that. And as we go on, you'll see I'm not exactly sympathetic to Mary. I'm sorry, I have to take off my wrist brace where I have sprained my wrist to take it off. So if you heard a Velcro sound, that's what it was.
Well, see, this is the kind of thing, the portrayal you'll get on somewhere like Dateline or something like, this after the fact, this poor, and she didn't deserve or, directly ask for something like this to happen to her daughter. But it's almost like you're creating an environment where you're making it very likely that something is going to happen to your daughter.
You're creating a very dysfunctional, high-risk environment.
Yes.
Mary says when she left the apartment on Friday, there was electricity. But sometime on Friday, the landlord cut the power off, to the apartment, because the landlord is trying to get them to leave.
Well, that's yet again another reason to maybe not go out and partying or hanging out right now, because you have some really big issues going on in your life. That's not, you know what I mean? If you have the person who owns the property actively trying to throw you out or get you to leave the property, that's probably not the best place to leave your daughter.
Well, it seems that eviction laws have changed quite a bit. I mean, now it can take you 6 months or a year to evict someone. The tenant seems to have more rights than the homeowner.
Right.
We've heard crazy stories of trying to get, squatters removed and that kind of thing. But it seems back in the 60s, a landlord could, if you weren't paying, they could lock your apartment and keep all your stuff until you paid. They could turn your power off.
Well, yeah.
They could just go in and move all your shit outside and lock you out. You didn't really have as much leeway as you do now.
Well, look, and you may have a landlord in the modern day who doesn't follow the letter of the law. So, again, that's not a situation you should leave your child in. They're not safe there because you haven't created a safe environment.
Well, then again, we mentioned that Peggy and Ray were going to go out and have a bite to eat. And by the time they returned on Friday night, there was no electricity. Since Kathy and Dick had recently moved out of the apartment next door, Ray ran an extension cord from the next door apartment to provide television and lighting a lamp.
Yes.
In the apartment.
TV, Netflix and chill, baby.
It's Netflix and chill.
That's all we can do because we just got these 2 plugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Netflix and like the Ed Sullivan Show.
Can I say, not paying, and I know people can end up in situations, illnesses, injuries, all, a thousand things can happen. Big chunk of America, almost myself included, can't handle a major emergency right now financially. It's just the world we live in.
That's just because we bought new tires.
Well, no, I'm saying, I understand
and we've spent thousands of dollars fixing my car that's still not fixed.
you can end up in a tight spot.
I'm still accepting Patreon members who want to buy me a car.
Yes.
That top tier where you buy Heather a car was still on the table.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
You can send PayPal if you want to send me thousands of dollars. Mountain Murders Podcast at gmail.com on PayPal. I mean, hey, this is tough times.
Well, thank you in advance. But what I'm saying is not paying your rent just because you're blowing your money or just to get over on someone. It's a really low thing to do. I think it's very, very a way bigger deal than some people let on. A lot of people or some people think it's not that big of a deal. I think it's a really low thing to do because you're making this agreement with someone. They have bills to pay.
They have a mortgage.
It's their property.
Yeah, property taxes.
And I think it's just a really shitty thing to do. And the people that can blow off that and then, just act like, well, what do you want me to do about it? When, you ask them to leave, it's a really shitty thing to do.
Well, prioritizing going out and partying or whatever over paying your bills, paying your rent, packing up your place when you're facing homelessness. I don't understand it.
I couldn't do it. I could never do it. I could never go spend money.
I could never get evicted, bro. Like, it doesn't matter what. I'm going to pay my rent first.
Right.
Because I can live here in the dark if I don't have power or whatever, but I'm paying my rent.
No, I could not go spend my bill money on just blowing it, knowing that I'm not paying my bills. That would, in my brain, that would not work.
I could never be one of those people either who doesn't have a job and just sort of floats around like, it'll get paid
we'll
or
figure
it won't.
It out.
Like, it'll, we'll work it out. Yeah. I just, too much anxiety for that. Sometime on Friday night, Dick Boyer returned to the apartment. Seems like maybe he was finishing moving out some of their belongings. And for some reason, Dick, who was known to have a violent temper, became angry with his brother Ray. Now, I don't know the details of this fight, but Dick unplugged power to the Reber apartment.
Hold on, Dick.
Dick
Really?
is being a dick.
All we got is these 2 plugs, and you're going to take that away from us, bud?
Yeah.
Lamplight and TV?
Peggy left the apartment with Ray. They went to spend Friday night at a friend's place, sleeping on the floor. On Saturday morning, Ray and Peggy returned to the apartment. And there was some detail, and I'm a little confused because it sounds like maybe they went to a friend's apartment, and then that friend came over to Peggy's apartment. But the friend's name was Chico Reyes, another known criminal. I should also mention, Dylan, that Chico had some warrants for his arrest at this time.
Nice.
So that's what's going to make the next part of the story a little strange. Before noon, a constable arrived at the Maple Street apartment with a bench warrant for Ray's arrest. Ray was $88 behind on child support payments and was taken to jail. Now, there has been some speculation about this arrest because Ray didn't live at this residence full time, raising questions about how the constable found him there. Also, in 1968, child support cases were handled differently. Usually during the work week, an officer would appear at a man's workplace to serve the warrant, and there usually wasn't jail time involved.
Oh. So here you're on the weekend. You're at an unknown address, or not known to be associated with Ray, and here comes the constable to settle up a child support issue.
Yes. And what's also strange about this is Chico Reyes, who's also in the apartment and is well known to law enforcement in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, where our story takes place. He has outstanding criminal warrants for burglary, and yet he is not taken to jail. A lot of people point to this because if you were a law enforcement officer, don't you think it would be more important to get the true criminal off the street rather than arrest somebody on a civil matter?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Over the years, many armchair detectives have suggested that Ray Boyer was taken to jail to get him, quote, out of the way. Because with Ray gone, Peggy was a sitting duck, so to speak.
So like somebody reported him, turned him in, if you will?
Well, that is one theory. Peggy walked across town without knowing where her mother was. So she spent some time trying to locate Mary. She met up with a girlfriend, and the two of them walked to a diner, hoping to locate Peggy's mom. That day, Peggy walked several miles on foot. It sounds like she walked across town and back. So we're getting into like 5-6 miles she's walked on this particular Saturday morning or, midday. Witnesses saw Peggy walking alone. A few described her as tearful and distressed. She was carrying a brown paper bag. I know that Peggy had a hamburger with her friend while she was out around this time searching for her mother.
Well, I'm sure she's just a kid. And now, you got her mom's wherever. Lights being turned off, which is worrisome to anyone. And all this other stuff going on. And you've had Ray and his brother kind of got into it earlier in the day.
Well, that was the night before.
Or the day before, rather. And she's probably very... even if she doesn't realize it, even subconsciously, like very worried about what's going to happen.
She is. Can't find her mom. Doesn't know where her mom is.
And now the only thing she had going for her in her eyes was being with Ray, and that's been taken away from her. So I'm sure she's disheveled, probably tired, and very all to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A 19-year-old named Blanche Klein was planning to move into the apartment on Saturday. She stopped by for a few minutes to drop off some items, but did not fully move in. She told Peggy she would be back later. Mary was under the impression that Blanche was going to be moving in, so she would be there to spend the night with Peggy. These plans aren't confirmed. They were just sort of assumed.
Into Peggy's apartment?
Yes.
And her mom's apartment?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Not just the building, but into the apartment.
Into that apartment. I don't know the details of why this young woman, she was a waitress, was planning to move in with them. Maybe she was going to help pay the rent.
Right.
I'm not sure. So at some point, Peggy's just, Mary is assuming, well, Blanche is going to be there with my daughter. She'll be there with her tonight. But again, this is just, she's assuming. At some point in the afternoon, Art Root, Mary's married boyfriend, stopped by the apartment. Art had recently robbed a laundromat and stashed the money in the apartment. He wasn't sure where Mary had put the money, and Peggy didn't know either. Art was pissed off and took a hi-fi stereo from the apartment as, quote, collateral until Mary handed over the money.
Okay.
Yeah. According to Art Root, he visited the apartment several times, but the last time he was there was around 6 p.m. He later said that Peggy was upset because she didn't know where Mary had gone, and since they were getting evicted, Peggy was packing up some of her things. We don't have a specific timeline and events for the rest of the Saturday night, but what we do know is that Peggy was seen with a girlfriend later identified as Ruth Winters downtown around 8 p.m. She was seen using a, quote, comfort station, which is a public restroom. Employees recalled seeing her there. So I guess maybe there's bathroom attendants in this comfort station.
I want a comfort station.
Well, I do know that Peggy was upset. She didn't know where her mom was. Of course, there's no electricity. Her friend Ruth offered, to walk her home. I can come home with you. And Peggy told her, no, it's okay. They departed, and Peggy went on her way.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what Peggy did before or after this time. So she's seen by Art Root at 6 p.m. She's with her friend at 8 p.m. I don't know what she did in those 2 hours, and I don't know what she did after 8 p.m. But around 3 a.m., Mary sneaked into the dark apartment. This was on May 25th of 1968. She'd been in Atlantic City with friends. The apartment had no electricity, and I should mention there was also no food inside, but it did have some beer.
Of course. Of course. I mean, you didn't have to explain that. I figured there was no food there.
And I bring this up because later it will be revealed that Peggy, she didn't have any food in her stomach. So it seems like the hamburger she had eaten like early in the day was the only meal she had had that day. Through the darkness of Peggy's room, Mary saw what she initially thought was a doll kind of standing up or propped up. When she knelt down, Mary quickly realized it wasn't a doll. She believed Blanche Klein was passed out on the floor. Mary started shaking her, trying to wake the girl. As soon as Mary touched the body, she knew something was incredibly wrong because the skin was cold and clammy. She quickly hurried across the hallway to Jewel Beard's apartment. Jewel was used to Mary's unusual but steady flow of traffic in and out of the apartment. And when Mary started shouting something about Blanche's body on the floor, Jewel didn't quite understand what was going on. Mary was shouting. She kept repeating, "God, she's dead." Walter, Jewel's boyfriend, stepped into the hallway trying to calm Mary down. And by now, other neighbors had heard the commotion and started to kind of gather in the hallway. Walter and another person entered into the Reber apartment. However, they couldn't see anything without lights. They started moving some furniture until they made their way into Peggy's bedroom. Walter realized that rigor mortis had already set in on this body, and he shouted, "Someone call the police."
Damn.
While Jewel tried comforting Mary in the hallway, a resident had gone to the main fuse box and restored power to the apartment. With the lights on, a badly battered and brutalized body was propped up in the corner of the room. The young girl had been beaten beyond recognition. Jewel started screaming, "Dear God, that's Peggy."
God, what a discovery.
Now, what I'm about to share is seriously one of the most horrifying murders that we've ever covered on Mountain Murders, and you might want to skip ahead a few seconds because this is going to be deeply disturbing, what was done to this poor girl.
My God, can I skip ahead?
I mean, if you want.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. I'll see you guys in the future.
Peggy's corpse was wearing an orange garment. A pool of blood had formed between the girl's thighs. When her body was removed 6 hours later, the nature of what happened to Peggy Reber would reveal a barbaric murder. Peggy was beaten. She had a bite mark on her breast. It's also been said that her nipple was bitten off.
Damn.
But I'm not 100% sure on that. Some newspaper articles have reported that, some have not. A cloth belt from a dress had been used to strangle Peggy, but the worst part was that the killer had thrust a 5-foot recurved hunting bow into Peggy's rectum 16 times.
Oh my God.
This action wounded her internal organs. Her lungs were perforated 11 times and her heart 5 times. There was damage to the girl's stomach, bowel, and liver. The bow was left inside her body, and the bow was visibly seen kind of poking underneath the skin on Peggy's chest.
My God.
Like kind of sticking up out of the skin.
That's horrible.
As neighbors stared into the apartment, Jewel Beard grabbed a lavender blanket and used it to cover Peggy's body. This was a heinous way to kill a person, and when investigators arrived, they felt the killer had been rage-filled.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Police Chief Bernard Riley was on duty the night of the murder. He told the newspaper it was the worst violence done to a victim that he had ever heard of. It's horrible.
It's one of the worst things I've ever heard before.
When law enforcement arrived at the suspicious Maple Leaf Apartments, they had to push through a crowd of neighbors who were gathered on the 3rd floor. No one was prepared for what they would find. A crime like this had never happened in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. The regular coroner was out of town at the time, so a substitute was called to pronounce Margaret Lynn Reber dead. A photographer from the newspaper was brought in to take pictures of the crime scene. Another call was made to the district attorney, but he was out of town, so the assistant district attorney came instead. It didn't take long for the Pennsylvania State Police to show up. The neighborhood was considered tough, and there were sporadic incidences of violence, but nothing of this caliber.
Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't take long for news of this type of discovery to spread, even amongst all the agencies and such.
Lebanon, Pennsylvania during the 1960s was seen as a working class community. In this conservative area, family values were central to everyone's belief system. Mary Alice Reber had a reputation around town because she didn't dress like the other mothers. She strutted around with bleached blonde hair, jeans, and a leather jacket. Many of the mothers in town didn't even own a pair of slacks yet.
So they wore mostly dresses and things like that.
When word spread of Peggy's murder, Mary was found guilty in the court of public opinion. A mother left her 14-year-old daughter alone in an apartment with no food or electricity. The child had a married adult boyfriend who was in jail. Many men had access to the apartment, including multiple keys to enter, and marijuana and alcohol were often used there. Mary, according to the residents of Lebanon, had broken every rule of motherhood. Yet in today's light, I should note, as I mentioned before, that authors and reporters view Mary through a very different lens today. They make the argument that Mary didn't kill her daughter, so she's not responsible. I would say there is a reason to judge Mary because her high-risk lifestyle and her behavior directly resulted in the murder of Peggy. Michelle Gooden, who wrote the book Justice Denied, says this murder could have happened to any young woman in town, but I disagree. Mary left her daughter without adult supervision for 2 nights while they were being evicted, and I don't know about you, Dylan, but if I were facing homelessness with my child, the last thing I would be doing is gallivanting off to Atlantic City with friends for 2 nights.
No, I agree. And she may not have murdered her, but she didn't protect her either.
Well, and let's just say here that a young girl who is at home with her parents in a safe, locked house
with lights.
This didn't happen. This happened to a girl who was in a, dangerous apartment building known for prostitution. You have given multiple men keys to the apartment.
Right.
People are in and out all the time.
Yes.
There's no electricity, no food in the apartment. I'd say, yeah, you pretty much directly contributed to this.
Yeah, certainly. And didn't check on her for days. I mean, you don't even pop by and make sure the next day when you're gone all night. No, I just don't understand. I don't understand why people can't say, what were you thinking to a woman?
We just have to go around feeling sorry for everyone now or making excuses for their bad choices.
It's not about her or her feelings at this point, honestly.
It's about this poor girl who's dead.
Who's brutalized and tortured in the most heinous way. And you were not there to protect them, and you weren't going off to work or on just a regular errand or just on nothing normal about what you were doing with and for your daughter. Yeah, so this is all directly, it just kills me that people can't ever look at the whole picture, and it's like you can't blame someone just because they're the mother of a victim. I mean, I don't know how you don't blame her in this situation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. In the modern world, we're not allowed to blame her. It's cruel. She's a victim too.
No, what she did, the environment she created and the way she was laying this girl, even before the murder, was cruel. The uncertainty, the being exploited by an adult, that's wrong.
Well, it sounds to me like a year before, Peggy had been molested or assaulted by some dude. And I don't know the details of that, but I would say it's probably likely that it was some rando that her mom had around.
Yeah, even if this was a perfect stranger, all the more reason to be extra vigilant around your daughter.
And since Mary didn't have regular employment or any employment at all, they had fallen behind on their $20 a week rent. According to the autopsy, Peggy was not sexually assaulted, but given the extensive injuries, it would likely have been difficult for pathologists to determine that, especially in 1968.
Right.
Peggy had an empty stomach at the time of her murder, so she had not eaten in the hours leading up to her death. It has been stated that Peggy was abused with other objects, but we do not know what they were, as those details were left out of news reports. There was, however, a mop found near the body with blood on the handle. Some theorize the killer might have tried to clean up the scene. Others have suggested perhaps she was assaulted with this mop as well. Law enforcement began investigating Peggy's murder right away, of course. One of their first steps was retracing her activities before death. They interviewed neighbors and anyone who might have seen Peggy on Saturday. The men with the keys to the apartment needed to be interviewed, as well as frequent visitors. So we do have a few strange aspects to this murder, Dylan. One is that the walls at the Maple Leaf Apartments were described as being paper thin. Residents claimed you could hear conversations, televisions, radios, etc. happening in the apartment next door.
Right.
Yet none of the residents heard a peep from the Reber apartment.
So they didn't hear any screaming, loud arguments, things thumping around, nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
Also, the electricity comes into play. Unless Peggy was murdered during daylight hours, how did the killer commit this physically demanding murder in the dark? It would take enormous strength to brutalize a body in such a way, and there were questions about whether a single person had committed this crime. Law enforcement believed there were likely two people, someone who would hold Peggy down while the other person did these forceful acts.
No, this is very sadistic and heinous acts that were, there's a humiliation element tied to it, I think. I guess one thing that could be is if they happened upon her, snuck up on her, or say she left, or someone came in the apartment and waited for her, and that this was done after death, the assault with the objects, that could explain no one hearing any noise, right? You got a young girl, a man.
Well, yeah, if someone
strangles her.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if someone's laying in wait, she walks in, if they immediately grab her,
right.
start strangling her, then
right.
It's very likely she didn't have time to react.
She can't get away. She can't make any noise. So, I mean, that's one way that would explain that because, I mean, that almost has to be the case.
Right.
Even if there's more than one attacker.
Well, and due to the time period, too, 1968, they probably didn't run any toxicology reports. I mean, who's to say that someone didn't get her liquored up or someone didn't slip her a pill that knocked her out or something?
Right.
I mean, we don't know for sure.
There was more than one very strong street drug.
Were
back then.
Quaaludes popular at this time?
Yeah.
When they knock your ass out?
Yeah. I mean, that was a big thing,
Blanche, Peggy's friend, who was set to move in, told law enforcement that she had been by earlier in the day to drop off a suitcase, and she had returned around 10 p.m. that night, and the door was locked. Blanche knocked on the door. She heard shuffling sounds, but no one answered. Blanche, took the hint and left.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Because we got to imagine if Peggy's in a dark apartment and someone knocks on the door and she was expecting Blanche back, right? According to Blanche, she's probably going to be happy she's there, right?
We have a reported sighting of Peggy downtown at 8 p.m. using the comfort station with a friend. Blanche shows up at 10 p.m. There's a 2-hour gap, yet at the time, they could not really determine, pinpoint the time of death. They just knew it was sometime
after
on Saturday.
After she was seen at out and about with a friend. It had to be, obviously. And then they don't know, but they're thinking it could have happened between 8 and 10, I guess, right?
Perhaps. A detective named Clifford Rowland led the investigation. Within 24 hours, Rowland had identified 16 to 18 suspects, which he said was highly unusual.
Well, yeah.
A lack of eyewitnesses and the heavy traffic around the apartment made the investigation challenging from the beginning. Now we're talking about weird aspects. We're going to keep on with that because this is very strange.
I don't understand why all these men had keys to the apartment. They weren't adding any value. They weren't helping the household. There's no reason. The only reason for someone to have a key to your apartment is if they are helping you or they're part of your family. You know what I mean? Or if it's some family of yours that you want them to, maybe have a safe place, which this isn't a safe place to crash. I mean, there's no lights. You're in the middle of eviction. There's, criminals all around, in and out. But yeah, I just don't understand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I don't understand why these men need a key, because they're not adding any value to the home.
Put it on Unsolved Mysteries, sir. I don't know. I've never given people my key.
That many people, it's like you're...
The only time I've ever given somebody a key is if I'm going out of town and I need them to, like, feed my cat or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And then you probably get your key back.
And then I get my key back.
Right.
Yeah. And it's usually like a relative or like a best friend.
Right.
Someone that's very trusted.
Exactly.
Not going to give a key to just some dude I'm hooking up with. Some boyfriend. Some friends. Like, I don't know.
See, this is a type of reckless behavior that is unforgivable. This is why you can't... That's why her mom needs to be held accountable. That is one of the most glaring things.
Can I just say this? And I know it's going to sound mean, but just based on like interviews with the mother and the way she speaks and the way she views things, is that I don't think she's very bright.
Okay.
I don't think she's that smart.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you're not being mean. You're just making an observation.
I think she's kind of dumb.
Okay.
23-year-old insurance agent Marlon Jones, who lived at 439 Maple Street, reported to law enforcement that he saw a suspicious man on the night of May 25th near the Maple Leaf apartment building. He provided investigators with enough details to create a composite sketch of the man. Just a few days after talking to police, Jones was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound near Indiantown Gap Military Reservation. Jones left a note with contents which were not made public. However, it has been said that Jones was having marital problems. His wife and child were living in Texas at the time of his death, and he was also having some financial trouble.
Oh.
But, yeah, maybe the only witness, if you will, kills himself. But that's not the only suicide surrounding Peggy's case.
Damn.
20-year-old Morris Purcell lived at a veterans hospital but frequently visited the Reber apartment. Investigators wanted to talk to him. They just wanted to speak to him because, again, they're interviewing people who are frequent flyers, people who stopped by the apartment, were kind of well-known associates of Mary and Peggy. So while they're trying to locate him, law enforcement uncovers that he's got a bunch of stolen items where he's been robbing people and burglarizing businesses and that kind of thing. And his accomplice was a nurse at the hospital. Now law enforcement has a reason to arrest Purcell. So when they go to arrest him, he manages to escape from the VA hospital by climbing out of a window, like a second-story window, and like jumping to the ground and stealing a car.
Oh my gosh.
He crashes the car. It's like this whole thing. He's eventually discovered in Campbelltown and arrested on the burglary charge. While locked up in the Lebanon jail, Purcell hung himself with a sheet before giving law enforcement any information about Peggy.
Well, there you go.
So 2 suicides.
I'll show you.
Again, very strange. So what are the odds that 2 people associated with the Peggy Reber case would commit suicide?
Well, I have to imagine that it's pretty astronomical.
Meanwhile, Mary's reputation as a promiscuous mother living on welfare rather than a woman who'd just lost a child became a focal point for residents. A letter to the editor stated, quote, "If this mother had loved her daughter, she would have stayed home and would have given Peggy a decent home and would have had food in the house to eat. Instead, she had beer." Quote, "If Mrs. Reber had the strength to go out with 2 male friends for 2 nights, she would have the strength to work 8 hours a day." That was some of the local thoughts and opinions that were shared in letters to the editor.
Well, I mean, what do you expect if, you have that type of environment for your child? I mean, seriously, no food, but there's beer there? I mean, that's just not a good look.
Well, residents seemed more interested in blaming Mary than blaming the person who had violently murdered her child. But you know what? You can blame both people.
Yeah, you can.
Right? Doesn't have to be one or the other. Like, more than one person can be blamed for this.
Given all the facts and what we know about the case and the environment and the house and all that, who would be surprised that this is the view people have of the mother? I mean, really. Who's going to think that that was okay? That was an okay situation to have your child in?
Lebanon law enforcement used all available investigative tools to find Peggy's killer. A forensic dentist was contacted regarding the bite mark on Peggy's breast. 8 suspects were asked to provide dental impressions, including Ray Boyer, who was in jail at the time of the murder. Oddly enough, it was Ray Boyer's impression that came closest to matching the bite mark. This will cause a lot of people to then point fingers at Dick Boyer, his brother.
Because they think they got the same teeth?
Perhaps.
Or he bit her some other time.
Well, I don't think... Well, I mean, if it's true that they out here saying he bit, someone bit off Peggy's nipple, I doubt he did that.
Oh, God. Yeah. Right.
Okay. As the investigation turned cold, the district attorney, Alvin Lewis, called upon the public to help solve the case. And like I said, Dylan, these are not just like cops kind of fumbling the ball. I mean, they are really utilizing every resource possible for help. They've got the state police involved. They get the FBI involved. They have, 50, 60 suspects. They are like trying to narrow it down. They're getting people's alibis. I mean,
so they're working it.
They really are working this case. And again, it was doubtful that no one heard the murder being committed. Also, someone who inflicts that kind of damage on a human body would surely be covered in blood when they flee the apartment, right? Yet no one on the street saw a bloody person. No one noticed if their boyfriend or neighbor or dad came home covered in blood.
Well, right. I mean, that part of it definitely. But, sometimes you catch a window where there's no one around. That happens. It's like every time there's not forced entry, the cops almost always assume that the victim may have known their assailant.
Right.
And I would argue some people don't have their doors locked 24/7, right? I do out of kind of a weird habit.
We do.
I always have my door locked. I don't know if I have an irrational fear of a home invasion.
I do because I'm very paranoid just naturally.
I just have such a habit of when I close it, I just lock it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think about it. I've actually locked myself.
Well, I was going to say, I think I've drilled that into you.
I've locked myself out of the house doing that shit.
Yeah, me too.
But sometimes people just, their doors are unlocked, and and then they kind of have tunnel vision of these assumptions they make in certain instances that can really affect an investigation.
Well, I think one of the reasons why law enforcement was just baffled that there had been absolutely no witness to this is because of the, I guess just the level, not only of the traffic in and out of Peggy's apartment, but also just in and out of the building.
Right.
Like this building seemed like it was popping.
20 units.
Like 24/7, like people all around. Again, prostitution.
And you may have the hanger
being run out of
arounds.
several apartments in the building.
Right.
People hanging out. I mean, it does sound like there was constant kind of in and out.
The old drunk guy that's always sitting on the stoop or, things like that. Yeah, I get it.
There has also been a long-standing belief that Peggy was pregnant when she was murdered. The autopsy did not confirm this, but both Mary and Kathy said Peggy believed she might be pregnant. Mary's boyfriend, Art Root, was a married man, as I mentioned before. According to reports, his wife had confronted Mary at the apartment days before the murder. She made it very clear that Mary was to stay away from her husband. Some speculated that the murder might have been a misunderstanding and that Peggy was not the intended target.
Damn.
No one wanted to believe that a woman could commit such a crime, but it has been floated that, this could have been an angry wife that was involved.
I disagree. Sorry.
You don't think an angry wife could be involved in this?
I think this kind of
Gets
brutality.
her brother to come help her or something.
Maybe, but I mean, this kind of rage, this kind of overkill, and just pure brutality. I think it was certainly at the hands of a man, and I think it wasn't about something. Not that that's not a big deal, but in the big scheme of things, that's not something for this type of violence. I don't think it would lead to that.
Well, they actually did get an FBI profiler to come in and kind of give them some pointers on the suspect. And the FBI profiler said they thought this man could be like a loner, or that he could be married, but maybe he was a bit of a loser, like couldn't hold down a job. I mean, kind of typical stuff that we've heard
Antisocial
before.
behaviors.
And that there maybe was a big life event, like his wife had left him or he'd gotten fired. There was some maybe trigger that caused this.
To make him go seek out a victim and brutalize them?
Yeah.
Okay. Like any victim. It doesn't matter who.
Well, I mean, they're not necessarily saying that, but they were suggesting that perhaps something had happened, like, and this person was pissed off, and then they just took it out on Peggy. Right?
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm no FBI profiler.
I can tell. No, but and sometimes I think they're real. I mean, we've heard profile reports that was so spot on, it's fucking creepy, right? That they just nailed every aspect, even nuances of a person and their personality and their life. They just nailed it. But and other times I think it's just, and I know they're trying to do good and bring something to the table, but sometimes I think it's just so vague that it's almost like a fortune teller, just kind of.
But I think we have seen that before where the assailant, the perpetrator, has some negative experience and they do go out and commit an act of violence, murder someone, and it's because they're pissed off about something else. I mean, that has happened.
Right.
I mean, that's not an uncommon thing.
No.
After months with no leads, an arrest was finally made on November 12th of 1968. Arthur Root Jr. was charged with Peggy's murder. Shortly after the murder, Art had been jailed on 3 counts of forgery and larceny. He also had a warrant for charges of escaping jail in 1965. Art had run away, had left jail, escaped, ran off, went to Chicago, got married, had kids, and was living under an alias.
Damn, dude.
And then he came back to Pennsylvania some years later.
Okay.
Yeah. Art Root admitted to seeing Peggy several times on Saturday when he had stopped by the apartment trying to get the money that Mary was holding for him. He became agitated when he couldn't find Mary. So there's that. Art says he last saw Peggy around 6 p.m. at the apartment. Afterwards, he went to a bar to drink beer, and he later returned home to have dinner with his wife. It's been suggested that this was around 8 p.m.
Now, he would have came by, made contact with Peggy, see that her boyfriend's not there, right?
He's mad and pissed off about this
He's
money.
mad. Mary's not there, which he sees that as well. Yeah, I mean, okay.
Plus, he doesn't really have an alibi. I mean, his wife's saying, well, he came home and had dinner with me. But there were questions. Law enforcement had questions about whether she was telling the truth.
Right.
Right? She also didn't realize that he had married her under a fake name. And, I mean, so there's this whole, she didn't realize that she was married to Arthur Root. She thought his name was something else. It was like Anthony Winstead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like how he tried to move up in life with his name. Art Root to Lord Anthony Winstead.
I mean, this guy's definitely, and then he says he was drinking at a bar, but it doesn't seem like police were able to find anyone who saw him drinking at this bar. So again, he doesn't really have much of an alibi, at least not a solid one.
Well, no, and I think cops actually, when it's your significant other is your only alibi, they probably still kind of eye that with a hint of suspicion, right? Because if anyone's going to lie for you, it'd likely be your wife or husband or your partner.
During the investigation, it was found that Art Root had forged checks from Mary's account. He also had a key to the apartment.
Nice. One of 38 copies that she had made.
Forensics were certainly not as advanced as they are today. There was no DNA testing that could maybe have easily solved this case, let's be honest. However, there were a few pieces of forensic evidence. Art Root was wearing a green suit on the day Peggy was killed. He was wearing like a white shirt, green pants, and I guess he had like a green, it's like a sports jacket that went with this.
What color green? I gotta know. I'm wondering. I know you don't have that information, but can we? This is right at the 70s, right? The beginning of the 70s, late 60s. You think it was bright green?
Maybe, or like a Kelly green or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Could have been a hunter green. All we know is it was green, Dylan.
He's running around in a suit.
I gotta say, pea green had a chokehold on people in the 70s, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how many kitchens were pea green,
mustard,
yellow, orange?
Yeah.
Those like kind of fall colors.
Yeah.
That's what I think of.
That's all everywhere. It was everywhere.
Oh my gosh, people's appliances.
Avocado green.
Toilets. Yeah. My mom, when she bought her house, her like master bathroom had a powder blue bathtub, sinks, and toilet.
That's awesome.
I thought it was awesome. I'm like, girl, you need to retro this up. And she hated it, so she had it all taken out.
And some cheap shit put in.
I don't know about that, but...
Well, I just mean, it's less better made.
Why wouldn't you just keep the powder blue?
Powder blue's pretty sweet.
Dude, when my bestie Julie, who's probably listening to this, hey girl, when her mom inherited her mother's house, her grandmother's house, it had not been updated, and it was awesome. There was like this mushroom wallpaper in the kitchen.
Oh yeah,
super cool. Yeah, it was like shag carpet in the house. I was loving it. But of course, Mama Charlene was not having it, and she kind of redid the house up or whatever.
Yeah, she got rid of the shag
but
carpet.
I have to say, like, I was impressed. I loved the 70s mushroom wallpaper.
Could you imagine how much dust and stuff was in that shag carpet?
I love shag carpet.
Oh my God.
You know what I would give to have shag carpet, like orange shag carpet in my house?
Dude.
Love it.
It would be so full of dirt, and like, how do you even clean shag carpet?
I would just love to have a super 70s, like, retro living room or den with shag carpet.
No, I want the split level den setting.
Conversational pit.
Yes.
Conversation pit.
No, that's why I want the split level where you come down the 2 steps kind of down into the den.
If we had this set up, Dylan, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, we have to have a swingers party.
Are we going to have wood paneling everywhere?
Maybe.
I mean, if you want to keep it true to form.
Depends on the color. Maybe if it's like a light wood paneling, like a light.
Oh, no. You know what wood paneling is going to be. It's going to be that heavy, dark with the black lines.
Okay. Enough. No, we're having mushroom wallpaper. Now moving on.
Okay.
So again, forensics were not that advanced, but they did have some physical evidence.
So we're talking about some fiber analysis.
Yeah, and actually this stuff was tested by the FBI. So you know it's good, right?
Okay.
Green fibers matching the fabric of Root's pants were found underneath Peggy's fingernails.
Damn.
Green fibers were also discovered on the lavender blanket used to cover Peggy's body. Hairs matching Art Root's were found on Peggy's dress and embedded in bloodstains on the floor.
Wow. Okay.
However, the defense will bring up at trial that there were also other hairs not belonging to Art Root found around the apartment.
Were they embedded in blood stains?
Well, I don't know about that, Dylan.
Were they under her nails? Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Pretty good little bit of forensic evidence there.
Yet Mary will say she never really thought Art Root murdered her daughter because, again, he was a nice guy. She also told investigators that she had had sexual intercourse on the blanket with Art, which could explain the transfer of fibers from his pants to the blanket.
Okay.
She had also admitted she had intercourse with multiple men on that blanket.
Yeah, that was her sex blanket.
It was I guess. Arthur went to trial in 1970 and was acquitted. It took jurors a short time to reach a verdict. One juror named Wallace Sanders said, quote, "I really did believe he was guilty, but there was also a shadow of doubt. There were a lot of people going in and out of that place."
And they were coming, and they were certainly going.
I would like to give you all a more detailed account of Art Root's trial, but guess what, Dylan? There are no available transcripts.
Why?
For whatever reason, the court never requested that the stenographer provide a transcript in the case. Therefore, we have no accurate recounting of the trial.
I mean, is that upon request?
Not usually.
Isn't that
It's usually
standard?
kind of required that there be a transcript
Right.
of the trial, but there is none.
So what would they have done if it went to appeals or something? Or are you saying if since it was acquitted, maybe that's why they did? Okay.
Yeah, it seems like since he was acquitted that they just didn't care about getting a transcript.
Okay, that makes sense.
Again, there's a lot of strange elements. We've got 2 suicides. We have no transcript.
We have a green suit.
So all I do know is what is available from newspapers that reported about the trial. According to a report on Root's trial, it is stated that, again, I mentioned he married his wife under an alias, Anthony Winstead. And this alias is important because we're going to get back to the aliases in just a minute. One of the biggest wins for the defense was when a forensic dentist found that Root's teeth did not match the bite mark on Peggy's body. Mary was the first witness called to the stand by the Commonwealth attorney. The Daily News reported that she had a new tattoo on her hand that read, "Walk Alone, 1970.
Okay.
Mary testified that before Peggy's murder, the girl was not alone much. She went on to describe finding Peggy's body at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning after a trip to New Jersey with 2 male friends. Jewel Beard told jurors that she had been away from her apartment from 3 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. When she returned, she never heard any noise from the Reber apartment. She explained to the court that the apartments were not soundproof, and whenever a visitor entered into the Reber's apartment, it sounded like it was someone outside her door. Beard believed the murder had taken place before 8:30 p.m. due to the lighting and condition of the apartment. She described the apartment as being in disarray. Mrs. Beard had to push a large box and the bed to open the hallway door, and after finding Peggy's body, she covered her with a blanket, then went to the apartment of James Roth and asked him to call the police. Beard reinforced the belief that the perpetrator was not a stranger to Peggy. Mary and Peggy secured the door with a lock and chain, and the Rebers released the chain to allow a guest inside, and since there was no sign of a struggle, Peggy likely allowed her killer inside, and again, Beard is mentioning that she hears when they slide the chain and open the door.
Damn. So you really can't hear everything.
Yes. It sounds like it. No pun intended. Local law enforcement did consult with state police and the FBI on Peggy's murder. The 2 agencies agreed that Art Root was the best suspect. The case against Root was largely circumstantial. According to the newspaper, the defense pointed out there were other hairs and fibers found at the scene. Numerous men had access to the apartment. According to Art, he'd ended the affair with Mary 2 months before Peggy's murder. So he's saying he hadn't really been to the apartment, I guess, in the months leading up to Peggy's murder.
Okay.
But it seems like Mary is saying that, no, he's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's saying the opposite.
His lawyers argued that Art had not been at the apartment at the time of Peggy's death and that others had an opportunity to kill her, which, again, jurors said this did give them a little bit of doubt, enough to acquit him. This was a huge blow to Peggy's loved ones. Once Art Root was found not guilty, the case cooled again. And for years, Peggy's case was put on a shelf. Unfortunately, in 1973, Hurricane Agnes tore through Lebanon. The physical evidence related to Peggy's case was damaged and lost because of flooding. It's almost like somebody doesn't want this case solved. There's no court records, no evidence.
And now an act of God.
In the year 2000, Peggy's case was reopened. It's been reopened a couple of times. A detective tracked down Art Root, who was serving prison time in the Southwest. After interviewing Root for 5 hours, the officer returned to Pennsylvania convinced of Root's innocence.
Oh, really?
Let's go on a side quest for a moment to discuss 2 other murders in the area. In 1973, 11-year-old Jennifer Gross was abducted by 26-year-old James Frazier. Her body was found in a wooded area. She had been stabbed with broken glass and then set on fire while still alive. Frazier would say he got mad when the child wouldn't have sex with him. 1 month before Jennifer's murder, a young Jane Doe had turned up near Indiantown Gap Military Reservation. So we have 2 murders of 2 young girls 5 years after Peggy's.
All right.
Well, I'm just saying, some people have suggested there could have been a serial killer.
Right, who was never caught, so they kept on.
Yeah. Author Michelle Gooden tried to locate Art Root Jr. in the mid-2000s when she was working on her book, Justice Denied. When she reached out to the Lebanon Police Department, they told her his file had been, quote, retired. And when she asked about this, they say, well, we think he's dead. However, she couldn't find any death certificate for Art. Through her research, she found that Art Root Jr. had used a dozen aliases over the years. After being acquitted in 1970, he was sentenced to prison on forgery charges for signing Mary's checks. So he did serve time for that. He was incarcerated in North Dakota, where Art escaped. Now, this is his second escape from jail.
Art, they can't lock Art up.
Hey, you can't keep this man down. It appears that after serving time in North Dakota, Art lived in Oklahoma and several other states, including Florida. He continued committing petty crimes. And at some point, Art married a woman in Oklahoma who had a daughter. The pair welcomed 2 children together. When his stepdaughter was 12 years old, she accused Art of sexually assaulting her. His wife, quote, never believed it. But under an alias, Art was charged with first-degree rape and forcible sodomy. A very innocent Art ended up accepting a plea deal.
Oh, imagine
now, his wife doesn't believe it. He's innocent, but the guy takes a plea deal and is willing to go to jail. Gooden raises the question, how many suspects in Peggy's murder went on to commit devious sex crimes? Art Root was the only one. And again, what are the chances? And sodomy after what was done to Peggy?
Right.
Right? Especially given the nature of how Peggy's body was abused, Art's wife realized after looking at some tax returns, the man she knew was using a different name. She never knew her husband as Art Root. He had explained the name change to her one time by saying that he was adopted as a child and that he went back to his biological family's name.
Okay.
Now, I should also mention that Art's stepdaughter recanted her story years later. I don't know how many years later. But I would also feel like or think that maybe a child who comes forward with this information and is told repeatedly by her family that she's not believed, that he would never do this, that they don't believe her, that eventually she might crack under pressure and say, yeah, you're right, he never did it. Because maybe she's not feeling like she's being accepted, or everybody thinks she's a liar.
Or maybe she really thinks she's wrong just because everyone's...
the gaslighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
After Gooden's book was published, she spearheaded a campaign to get a new grand jury hearing for Peggy Reber. Kathy, Peggy's sister, had given investigators a story in 1968, but later told Gooden a different story. Kathy said her ex-husband, Dick Boyer, was involved in Peggy's murder. According to Kathy, Dick and his mother coached her on what to say to police back in 1968. So we've got this grand jury that is going to be called in 2009. So in 2008, just before the grand jury convened, Peggy's body was exhumed. Unfortunately, decomposition had destroyed any remaining evidence, so they could not use DNA testing. Since the physical evidence was long gone, of course, modern forensics was not able to aid in solving the case. I almost wonder now, with the advances we've had since 2009, if they could maybe find something now.
Maybe. I know DNA's come a very long way, but I mean, I would imagine at a certain point, there's just not going to be a viable sample to extract. I could be wrong. I mean, like I said, there's many aspects of it that go beyond my understanding.
A grand jury was convened in 2009. 23 members met 11 times. 33 witnesses were interviewed. The grand jury reviewed 463 pages of exhibits. In the end, they determined, due to the passage of time and the home environment at the time of Peggy's death, they were unable to conclude what had happened or, who might have been involved. And they also said that Michelle Gooden's meddling, they found problematic, that the author's involvement. Dick Boyer was able to testify before the grand jury. It was established that he did have a key to the apartment at the time of Peggy's murder. Kathy had suggested that he was guilty before, but did not testify to this at the grand jury. She never said he was guilty, and she never said he and his mother coached her on what to say.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, that would be a pretty bold statement, right?
Dick Boyer was able to provide an alibi for the night of Peggy's murder. He had been working at Reading Alloy and returned home directly after work. He didn't learn about Peggy's murder until later Sunday morning. So he had a time card and he had witnesses who saw him at work and then saw him at home because, again, he's living with his parents and his wife. So multiple witnesses saw him after work.
Directly after work, not a big time window for him to go do something like that, right?
In recent years, Kathy has increased awareness of Peggy's case. In interviews, she states that she never blamed her mother for Peggy's murder. But Kathy does say this event, of course, changed everyone's life and made life a lot harder. Dick Boyer filed for divorce from Kathy in 1973. He claimed at the time that Kathy had neglected their daughter, and their daughter was adopted by his parents, who ended up moving to Oklahoma to raise her. Ray Boyer ended up returning to his first wife, and according to the book, they are still together today. Of course, this book was published some years ago, so at this point, they're much older. I don't know if they're even still alive, but they were back together.
Well, I'm glad Ray finally found true love
with his wife.
Right.
Yeah. Now, a few things we should discuss about the case that's also strange. Peggy was reported to be wearing an orange dress when her body was discovered. Witnesses stated that she was wearing a completely different outfit on Saturday, not this dress. Also, the orange dress is one that Peggy had made in home economics class. Kathy, who had given birth 2 weeks before, had been wearing the dress a week before Peggy's murder. Around this time, Kathy and Dick had been involved in a domestic dispute in which the orange dress had been torn. It was unlikely that Peggy would have worn the dress since it had been damaged, so people theorized that someone had put this dress on her.
Okay.
Also, the cloth belt used to strangle Peggy was described as red and green. It did not match the orange dress, which is another aspect people have pointed out.
Well, no, I couldn't imagine someone pairing that with an orange dress.
The recurved bow used to assault Peggy belonged to Ray Boyer, but we know he was in jail at the time of the murder. Over the years, a lot of speculation has, come to fruition that the killer intentionally used a bow belonging to Ray, as if it were sending a message, perhaps, to Ray Boyer.
Right.
Or trying to set Ray up.
Right.
Yeah. Now, this is a strange aspect as well, Dylan. I should mention that after Kathy and Dick split in 1973, Ray moved in with her for a period and had a relationship with her.
What the hell,
His brother's
dude?
ex-wife, his dead girlfriend's twin sister.
That's not weird.
Not at all. Peggy Reber's murder remains one of the most baffling in Pennsylvania history, and it is still unsolved to this day.
Damn. Man, I was afraid this was going to happen. That it would not have a resolution.
This is a deeply disturbing case, in my opinion.
Very. Very disturbing.
I feel like this young girl did not have a fair shake at life.
No.
She was set up for failure. And the fact that no one's ever been charged and she's never had justice is so troubling for me.
Well, she was just left out there God forbid something happened to her, and in turn, the most horrible thing happened to her. And it's so sad. I mean, it's just horrible. And the fact that no one's ever been held to account, it makes it just that much worse. And someone who's capable of that type of brutality to a young girl like that.
You know, and there's been a lot of finger pointing over the years. Ray Boyer in interviews and other folks have kind of, even Mary, have kind of almost suggested that the lawyer landlord could have been involved because he was supposedly a pervert. And Mary said that he had propositioned her, like, if you and Peggy will sleep with me, we'll forget about the rent. And that she basically told him, like, fuck you. Like, I'm not sleeping with you, and neither is my 14-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So there's some thought, and of course he has keys. He cut the power. He could have called and he's a lawyer, so he could have called and got Ray locked up and done this to Peggy. I mean, that's one theory that's been floated.
Now, the evidence you said early on that he was had been called a pervert, is it just by Mary, or is there any other?
No, because even Ray Boyer said that he was creepy and that he had made passes at Peggy, and at one point Ray had told him, like, leave her alone,
Right,
or I'm going to kick your ass, kind of thing. He was also allegedly known to sleep with the sex workers in the building and maybe have sex in exchange for rents and that kind of thing.
Damn, okay. Well, damn, I forgot about him.
But yeah, a lot of people say he was a bit of a
Well, and
a creepy sex pervert.
He would be full aware of the situation there and know that how Mary is. Like, you know what I'm saying? That her daughter may be left in a vulnerable position.
Well, he cut the power.
He might have known that she's the only one around.
Could have had Ray locked up. With
Even
his
if he didn't have Ray locked up and it just happened for whatever weird reason, because stuff like that happens sometimes, you know? Somebody's supposed to do it on Monday or whatever, then they're already over this part of town for another business, some other business, and they go ahead and take care of it. I mean, shit happens. But yeah, well, he would be privy to all that information and just knowing about the environment there around the apartment. So yeah, what the freaking hell?
But I understand. I mean, police were in a very difficult position with this case.
Dude, any defense attorney is going, given that environment, all the people in and out and stuff, it's not a hard stretch. That's one of the most classic defenses is, someone else did it. Someone else could have done it. You don't even have to prove that they did do it. You just have to prove that there's opportunity for them to have possibly done it. And that counts as reasonable doubt. And how it's a slam dunk to make that argument in this case, right?
Well, and some people do believe that Art Root was guilty, that he was involved, but they also think there could have been a second person involved, which would explain the bite mark and the dental impressions.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Because again, his teeth did not match the dental impressions that were taken. But law enforcement has long theorized it was two people. And they do think Root was involved. So there could have been a second person.
Damn. See, and sadly, we'll probably never know.
Right.
And that's the worst part of it. She'll never get justice.
Well, Mary has passed away in 2004. Herman Reber, Peggy's father, the only father she ever knew, he passed away in 2010. It seems that her sister Kathy is still alive. But, I mean, at this point, just beyond the citizens of Lebanon who are haunted by this cold case and kind of keep people interested in the case.
Right.
There's not really a lot of people from that time left to advocate for Peggy or even alive who were there, who remember the case or were involved in the case. I mean, all of the law enforcement officers are long gone now, and, Peggy's Sister Kathy, I think, is in like her 70s. So,
And it's probably true of the killer. Probably long dead. So
it's a really sad case.
it is. Well, thank you for sharing it with us.
So again, my resources today were multiple news articles, the Daily News, which I believe is Lebanon's paper. Of course, the Philadelphia Inquirer. There's a lot of newspaper articles available if you go to newspapers.com from the time period. And then Michelle Gooden's book, Justice Denied. I have to say, I was not a big fan of this book. It did not go into great detail about the case. And it was a lot of the author's kind of firsthand conversations with people and her life and her experience with the case. And when people, when authors, it bugs me when true crime authors try to make the case about themselves.
It's very weird.
Instead of about the case. And I felt like this author definitely was making it about herself.
How the case makes her feel.
Yeah. And I just don't care I just want facts.
Right.
So that bugs me. So again, I wasn't a big fan of this book.
No, I could tell.
So, but you can find it. It's out there if you want to read it. But I do not like the way it's written, and I don't like the style.
And I can tell when that's the case because you struggle to get through it.
Yeah, I was like slogging through.
You get aggravated. Like, what are they even talking about?
Like, she has a whole section where she's with her friend and they're eating Lebanon bologna.
Okay.
And I'm like, yes, it's delicious, but do you have to have a whole chapter about like taking your friend to a diner to eat this bologna that's made in this town? Like,
oh my God.
Okay.
Damn, I need some Lebanon bologna now.
It's pretty good, but
it's pretty damn good.
Really bad for you.
Yeah, I know, but.
All right, so that has been the unsolved case of Peggy Reber.
All right, thanks again to Katie, our new patron. Welcome to the club. And until next time.
I know this is a long case, and it's been a long episode. And we're quite judgy. But you know, other podcasts are going to bullshit you. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, and not give an opinion. But that's not us. I'm always going to be opinionated about people and the folks involved.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just thinking,
I'm not going to sugarcoat that Mary, like, oh, she was a great mom.
This could happen to anybody. That's bullshit.
She was a mom who lit up the room. She didn't. She didn't take care of her kids.
No, she's
very irresponsible.
She didn't light the room up because there's no lights. Electricity was
shut off.
All right. So until next time, we'll see you in the middle of the week. We hope you have a great rest of your week and talk to you soon.
Bye, Dylan.
Bye.